right, let's do better. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. My name is Michel Habineza, and before I talk about the reason why we're here, I'd like to introduce to you the teammates, everyone that we came with. We have in front here Clemence Mbabazi, and we have Monique Egisa, and our two debaters tonight, Jesh Arnold and Maya Musenga. So we are all part of a program called iDebate Rwanda. And as many people actually know, the one thing that comes to mind when we talk about Rwanda is the 1994 genocide, where in a space of 100 days, more than 1 million people were massacred. But very few people in the world actually know what led to that genocide. For many people, they just see it as people just decided and woke up one day and decided to kill their neighbors. But then also fewer people actually know what happens after a genocide. Because you see, in Rwanda, unlike in the Holocaust, when the Holocaust ended, the Jews sort of went all over the world. Some came to America, some went to Israel, some stayed in Germany, and then some went all over Europe. But in Rwanda, it was different. Because you see, in Rwanda, people had to go back to the same communities as those that, perpetrated a genocide. And, you like to imagine in a place where almost a tenth of the population was exterminated within 100 days, it is really hard to think about how could people basically go back to the same communities and try to engage one another. But most of all, very few people actually know or can think about what happens after a genocide for those that are born after. Because for those who are born in 97, those who are born in 2000, or those who are too young to actually take part into the killings, it's a whole new set of conflict and a whole new set of issues that come with it. Because in Rwanda, we are talking about more than 64% of the population is under the age of 25, which means that we have a very young population. So what we are doing in Rwanda is basically creating a culture that sort of fights against what led to genocide. And in a few minutes, I'd like to explain what I think led to a thing like genocide. See, we'll like to think it would be so much easier if we could say that genocide is something for the Rwandans, right? Because it's something that only Rwandans can do. Because if it was true, then it would be so much easier. We'll just build a fence, a very big wall around Rwanda, and make sure Rwandans don't get out of there, and the whole world will be a better place. But the reality is, genocide is a reality for so many people around the world. And it's something that doesn't happen overnight, but it's something that is built up over the years. And we find that in order for a mass atrocity to happen, one of the things that need to happen, there needs to be, silence, right? Silence from the bystanders, silence from the victims, and so that perpetrators can actually commit whatever they need to do. And secondly, we see that it's blind obedience to authority. If you ask the perpetrators in Germany, and then you also ask the ones in Rwanda, you hear the same thing. I was told by this person in authority to do it, and I did it. And people never learn how to question. But then there's also this lack of empathy and this always viewing the other as less than a human being, dehumanization. And then through that, there is no sense of empathy, because I believe as human beings, we can never really commit crime against another person. That's why we need to dehumanize them. So what we have been doing in Rwanda is to try the opposite and see if it works. So we run a debate program in Rwanda for the young generation. And that debate program, I think for us, we see that debate and public discourse can actually be one of the ways in which we can build a culture of peace. And how does debate actually help combat some of the mass atrocities? In debate, you learn how to question. You learn critical thinking skills. You learn that just because a person said something doesn't mean that they're right. In debate, you learn how to speak up, because speaking up is important in order to stop any sort of atrocities. But then most of all, in debates, you always learn that there's always two sides to a story. And you also learn how to put yourself in the shoes of your opponent. Now, you don't do it for altruistic reasons, right? You do it so you can understand them and beat them, right? It's not because you want to love them any better. It's just so they can win the debate. But through that, you gain all the skills and you gain all the the tools that are needed in order to create peace. For us, we have seen that peace is not people holding hands and singing "We Are the World" or "Kumbaya," but then that peace is people learning how to live with differences. And in debate, you learn that differences are good. So us, we are on a 17-stop tour of the United States. So we arrived 14th of September, and we're living in about a month. And what we're doing is going around different places, different universities and high school, and telling them about the history of Rwanda, but not so that people can feel pity for Rwanda, but so that people can learn that what happened in Rwanda can happen anywhere. Like I said, we wish it was as simple as Rwandans are just born evil. But the reality is that we are teaching people that what happened in Rwanda should not happen anywhere else, and that people should basically actively work to ensure that it doesn't happen. So we have been to, I think right now, 7 states, and we're remaining with another 6 or 7. So by the time we're done, we'll probably have done more states than most of you, just saying. But most of all, we are trying to change the perception that people have of Rwanda, because we believe that the reason to why the world never acted in Rwanda, and there are so many complicated reasons, but it's also because for many people, for many of you, when you talk about Africa, the first thing that you see, if you're honest, is safaris and wild animals and people living in huts. Well, we don't. But it's also because we want to build that human connection, so that anytime you think about Rwanda, you think of us. And every time you think about some place where there's conflict, to always understand that they are not less human than you, and just because they live in conflict doesn't make them worse than you. And we're trying to change that perception. And so, yeah, that is what we're doing. And we have been here for a few days, and we're really thankful to the whole debate team and Jeff for welcoming us at Penn State. And so tonight we're going to have a great debate, and I hope you enjoy it. So I think that's the very long, brief presentation of what we do. Thank you very much.